There we go. It's recording. So welcome to There's an App for That. So my name's Jeff. I'm from the Canberra Atlassian community. Uh, so today we're really lucky to have Max and Shannon from K15T. But just a shout out to Ash and Kit from the Brisbane community who organised this, as they have for a number of the There's an App for That. I'll also just do a little teaser for next week for the Canberra Atlassian community chapter. We've got a focus on Assets Data Manager, which is a new product which Atlassian have coming out with that is part of Jira Service Management, so AirTracks product. So that's going to be next week. So it will be virtual. So yeah, jump on board and register for that one. And then we'll make sure that people get copies of videos and things. But over to Max and Shannon.
Okay. Hi, I am Shannon from K15T. And yeah, today we are going to be talking about how to transform Confluence into the ultimate documentation hub. We have a variety of apps, mainly for Confluence, and we're really, really passionate about a lot of documentation use cases. So I hope that everybody here is sort of ready to talk about Confluence. And just a bit about us. So my name is Shannon. I have been with K15T for almost 7 years now. I am leading the product marketing. So for our whole portfolio, we do have one lone app for Jira, but I spend a lot of my time mostly focusing on our scroll apps for Confluence. And I am joined by my colleague, Max.
Yeah. Hey. Hey there. I'm a custom advocate for more than 2 years now at K15T. I started out in the orderly databases team. So if any one of you already played around with databases in Confluence after it got acquired, so I was in that before. I'm also a community chapter leader in Munich, an online community leader. So yeah, and I'm happy to be here this early in the morning.
What time is it there for you?
So we are past 8 a.m. now, so we have Oracle.
Not too bad. It could definitely be worse.
Definitely.
Indeed. Yeah, thanks for doing it. Just for everyone, feel free to put some questions over in the chat. Then we'll see if we raise them as Shannon and Max are going through their presentation, or we might wait. We'll see what the question is that comes up. But yeah, so okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, sure.
Max, let's over to you, Shannon, because Max has got something in his mouth.
He's taking his little break. So obviously we want to get into some of the apps with you today. We're not going to go through our whole portfolio. But I also wanted to start by just sort of telling you a little bit about K15T and sort of what makes us tick. And yeah, why we actually build the solutions that we do. So our mission is really to help teams turn their knowledge into impact. And the way that we do that is by helping teams harness their quote unquote know-how. So what we notice is, we spend most of our days actually either sharing or seeking out information. And it's that information that's our know-how. That's our knowledge that keeps our organizations running and helps our teams and also our customers and other stakeholders just be successful. So we know that knowledge and information is just the lifeblood of any organization. And when it's done right, when we're actually sharing that information with intention, it can be really, really impactful. So yes, we're here today to talk about documentation in particular. We're actually going to show you some customer examples of how teams are creating and sharing documentation in a variety of ways. But yeah, we also want to go beyond the docs themselves and really just talk about some of the principles and the characteristics that make for great information sharing. Because yeah, like I said, we're super, super passionate about that. And yeah, we know how impactful it can be when we're sort of the champion of information sharing in our teams or in our organization. So I wanted to actually start with a primer. It's either early somewhere or late somewhere. So go ahead and use the chat for this. But what are some characteristics of great documentation from your perspective? I saw we also have like a technical writer who introduced herself. So maybe you're already passionate about this. But yeah, think back on some scenarios where you've either used documentation, maybe in your work or in your personal life, and it just really, really worked. And what made that experience really great for you. Maybe if you are a technical writer or a similar role, you're also creating documentation. So you're also already thinking about, what will make that great for others. So yeah, I want to sort of pull out some of the ideas here. Yes, high availability. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. You're already going through my script here. Yeah, cool. This is also like already a good start. Adjustable, yes, definitely. There's our tech writer. Lots of ideas. Yes. Always considering the end user perspective. Real-time updates, absolutely. Search options, absolutely.
Good search options. Yeah, search is. I hear it a lot also in customer demos. Just people looking for something that is better than Confluence search, the default one,
Yeah.
which just makes it hard. But let's also wait for lesson intelligence, right? Could also at some point be hopefully helpful.
Yes, and we have something in this presentation that is quite new that you all are actually some of the first to see it. So stay tuned. But yeah, I actually spend a lot of my time kind of talking to customers here and there. And I was talking to a customer recently and I was asking them actually kind of like what kind of goals or motivations do they have in the team? So this person was an information architect at their org. And he had such a simple quote that I was like, wow, I'm going to use this. So he said, our team's goal is simple. It's to produce information that can be easily found and understood. And what stood out to me was this team actually has one of the most complex setups I've ever seen. So they've got dozens of products. They have a bunch of different product variants. They have a huge variety of customers, meaning that they just have like a lot of needs for how those customers need to be enabled. And yet his priority was just really simple. It's the information needs to be easily found and it has to be understood. And I really think that's important to keep top of mind is, having some of these principles baked into documentation practices. That's how we make impact. So I want to share a few principles of our own, some of the things that, we see constantly that just make for really great documentation. So here's just 4, you can leave this presentation with 4. The first, I think it already came up is that, it has to be centralized. So one of the first things that we consider when we create any kind of information is where, where are we creating that? And actually to answer that, we have to first think about, where do others expect to find that information? This is one of the reasons that, we're really, really big champions of having a great company intranet, something like Confluence. Actually, since the beginning, the teams at K15T, we really operate on this idea that if it's not in Confluence, it didn't happen. Because our aim is to sort of create this shared brain, and that goes a really long way because then everybody in the company just develops this sort of instinct for where information is created, where it's going to live, how it's going to evolve, and on the flip side, when it's not centralized, you're naturally just creating silos and some frustration for either your team or your customers. So start with centralization, get everybody on the same page. The next one definitely came up was structure. Being really intentional with your structure goes a long way because it really helps folks sort of grasp information really quickly. We're humans and we naturally really look for patterns and structure in things. So rather than just sort of creating information anywhere in any way, we really do our teams like a huge favor by thinking about the structure. And this is absolutely another reason we're fans of Confluence. There's a lot of out-of-the-box features to support structure. So things like page templates, so you don't have to start with a blank page or, macros. You can display information in tables, layouts. I mean, Max just mentioned it. We're actually the team that originally built the databases product. So if you haven't played around with that, it's amazing for building structure into the way that you do your work. There's just a lot in Confluence to work with. And yeah, I'll stop rambling. I'll actually, Max, do you want to do the next two?
Yeah, the next one already came up from multiple people on the call, and also like Eric in the quote mentioned it. So information needs to be easily found, and this also really needs to be an integral part of this whole setup for every team that is creating documentation. So your information is only relevant if it can be found, and every single one of us knows how frustrating it can be to go hunt for information and you're just not finding what you actually need. And to get this right, so what we've seen from our experience is that you need a combination of tooling and processes. So a good search functionality is one dimension of this and very helpful, but there are other elements that are just as critical. So yeah, be it processes or be it even humans, let's be honest. So you're also dealing with other people, be it your colleague or customers. So, and moving on from that, then it's like how you name pages, how you also label information, how you relate information, how you link it. So all of this, in a way, is adding up to making your information searchable and discoverable, and so to reach that goal. And yeah, the last of the four characteristics that we want to go into is it has to be flexible. And that's so we're in times now where people are consuming information in so many different ways and different places, and so every one of us or the teams need to be able to serve as many of those as we can. And that means also our information has to grow with us and serve these various purposes. So you need flexibility, and of course it's best if this flexibility is already baked into the tools and processes. So you save lots of time in maintaining your content and not having to recreate everything. So to wrap this up, these are the four characteristics. I guess you already covered them, all of them in a way before we asked. And we're definitely also going to show how these work in practices or in practice looking at the customer stories today. So this session today is also called There's an App for That, right? So we will also show you not just one, and we hope it's okay that we brought a few. We already teased it. There's a couple of apps. So we want to get into the Scroll apps for Confluence, into the whole portfolio, because it's a collection of apps that helps teams to manage and publish their content in Confluence. So yeah, it's multiple apps because it's very versatile, and in a way for each use case you will find something. And to give you a bit of a mental model to help you maybe also just like put apps into the right places, we talk about two main categories here. So in the first one, we have content management. So these apps are all about how content is structured and managed inside of Confluence. And we mentioned it, structure is incredibly important. And there are some great out-of-the-box features in Confluence, and also hopefully many more to come. But many of our customers need more advanced functionality. So basically more than Confluence is capable of providing. So version management, conditionalizing content, translation management, also quality control. So these are all like the gaps that Scroll apps can fill in. So, and the next pillar, the big category is publishing. So on the other side of the coin, literally. So these are probably our most recognizable apps, and because this is what is like then shared and published to users or customers, and it happens in lots of our use cases. We will show you today, also going into multiple formats. So be it publishing to help centers, be it publishing to HTML files, to PDF or Word files. So that's all the different dimensions we have here. But because it's not so super exciting to just see an app and a bunch of features, I will let Shannon get into the customer story of a team that is using a combination of Scroll apps to manage and publish not only their external docs, but also their internal docs.
Yeah. So the first customer that we want to spotlight is called Amplify. They are a US-based software company. They're about 700 people last time I checked. What they do is they help more than 20,000 companies just keep track of their social media presences. Within the company, they've embraced the entire Atlassian stack. So they're using Jira, JSM, Confluence for kind of everything, team collaboration, project management. And then, as Max said, they are using the Scroll apps, which is really centering around their technical documentation for their products. So like the product docs and also the help center, which is published to their end users. And just some background, when we started working with this customer, it was really interesting. They had actually just acquired 4 different other products in a really short period of time. This meant obviously that they had their hands full. They were, not only trying to integrate, multiple teams into the company, but then they also had to bring along sort of all the tools that they were using for all the different product information. They really needed to just align everything. And obviously they faced a few challenges with that. Unfortunately, every team was using a different tool. They had all of their product information sitting across 5 different content management tools. So some of them maybe you recognize, things like Zendesk and Confluence. Paligo was another one. And they just wanted to settle for just one tool for all the internal and external knowledge management for the team. So they also needed to be able to actually publish that content in a way that their customers would recognize. Having a really easy way to make sure that customers had access to the documentation, that it looked and felt like Amplify and not 5 different brands. The other thing that they really were keen on is making sure that their docs were not just available online, but also available directly in their product. So along the way, that's how they found K15T. And in the end, actually, they weren't just looking at K15T tools, they were looking at all of the different competitive tools. And the Atlassian Cloud stack actually won out, mainly for their ease of use, also because of the integration, between Jira and Confluence, and everything just sort of works. And then, of course, we're talking about apps today. A big thing for a lot of these customers is extensibility, being able to build on different use cases thanks to the Atlassian marketplace. So we're really happy that we were a big factor in that decision as well. And this is the sort of subset of the Scroll apps that they've settled on so far. So on top of the Atlassian core products, and they are using some of the Scroll apps. So they're using Scroll Viewport for their documentation center. They're using Scroll Documents to be able to sort of structure and manage their documentation. And then last but not least, they're using Variants, which is our tool for conditionalizing content for different products. And they're actually using this in a unique way to sort of manage their internal publishing process, just keep content stored in the right places, make sure they're publishing the right things. So I want to show you a quick demo of how this actually works for Amplify. We'll start with the end result. So this is actually the Amplify Documentation Center. It's built entirely on Confluence and Scroll Viewport. There's, of course, a search bar at the top. They can search all the pages, all of the content that's in the Help Center. All the tiles that we see here, these represent just a subset of the product documentation. So it could be specific features, could be specific products, release notes, that kind of thing. And everything you see here, so all of this help content, it's all authored and managed in Confluence Cloud and then delivered as an online help center thanks to our app, Scroll Viewport. And what's great is, as the end user, as an Amplify customer, you don't even know that this is all based on Confluence. It's very branded. They've even added some of their own customizations to make it really look and feel like their own company. That's obviously a really big plus for them. They also don't have to manage things in different tools or in different formats. They just consolidate all their content into Confluence, and now their customers have everything they need. And I want to give you a bit of a look into how this actually works for the Amplify team. Obviously, I don't have their exact setup, so we've recreated it in sort of a test phase. But that way you can sort of see what the authoring process and what the publishing process actually looks like. So you would just start with a Confluence space, and this is where the Amplify team sort of manages their documentation. And yeah, the team authors all of the content and sets up help articles, release notes, any of the things that they would need for the product, all in just this typical workflow that authors would expect when they're actually working in Confluence. So they get to keep the same workflow that they're used to. Then if the author heads to the Scroll Viewport app, they get to see all the different products that they have documented. Obviously, Amplify has quite a few. And these can either be entire spaces of content, or it can actually just be a subset of pages if that's what you prefer. And they can also see some of the other information that might be relevant for managing the content. So things like the changes that have been made to the docs between, publish, and also whether a specific product has versioning or variants active. You can also see that information as well. And then, last but not least, from here, you can actually jump into the theme editor where you're actually able to define how the Help Center is going to look and function. So there's a very nice preview on the right-hand side. So any of the settings that we change on the left, they're immediately available as a preview. You don't have to code in order to change any of these things. It's all very, very easy. These settings, they include almost everything. So options for your layouts and your structure. You can totally influence how your articles are displayed. Also what users will see first when they encounter your Help Center. And then, of course, you can change all the things you would expect, like your colors, your logos, just other elements to better match with your brand. Basically everything that you would expect when making your Help Center your own. And of course, there are additional integrations with third-party tools. We know that that's very important for our users as well. So we have integrations for things like analytics so that you can actually understand how your users are using or navigating the help content. You can integrate, of course, with your help desk. So, when users need to reach out for additional support, when the self-serve experience wasn't enough, you can directly include this in your Help Center. We have things for article feedback. We also have an integration with Atlassian's status page. So you can communicate an incident with your product also directly on the help site. So lots of flexibility to actually extend whatever help experience you're trying to provide. And this is the Amplify's favorite feature, they said, is the custom URL. It's obvious that having a custom domain is super important. It's something you're definitely going to want to influence when it comes to branding. Just makes it seem very easy and trustworthy when you're able to point to your users to a site that just makes sense in the context of your brand. So if you go to docs.amplify.io, you can actually see their live setup. It's all public.
So we just had a question, Shannon, from Benjamin, just asking about the documentation center that's available to the outside. So I think that's using the Scroll Viewport product is publicly available because it's actually on the infrastructure on the internet rather than on your intranet. But you can, is there a possibility of actually limiting it via passwords or anything of that nature? Or
yes, great question. We do provide a few different options for authentication. So single sign-on, and then I also believe token authentication is something we enable as well. So if that's something that you don't want your entire Help Center to be seen by everybody, that's something that we can enable.
Yeah, and just adding to that, because I also, right when you started talking, I pressed enter for my comment. So basically on the site level, you decide is it publicly available, or do you use access tokens, or any identity provider like Okta or Azure you might already have. Salesforce is also something I see a lot to use a single sign-on SAML integration. So that's basically then you can set up lots of use cases for only internal use, customers, or specific audiences. So
And actually, Amplify is a customer they do have different use cases built on Scroll Viewport where they do actually have the authentication. So something that they just told us last month was they're building an internal facing employee help center essentially. And that's all done with their authentication as well. Very flexible. And the Amplify team is pretty happy. I mean, this is a community event. I wonder if anybody actually recognizes this individual. He's a bit of a legend in the community. And yeah, this is Chris Klima. He was leading the project, to get all of those tools aligned. And yeah, as I mentioned, he was looking at a lot of competitive solutions. He had a lot to kind of sift through. And what he shared sort of stood out for him, why he ended up with Confluence and the Scroll apps. It took less than an hour to actually set up the functional documentation portal with sort of all the works, their custom domain, their single sign-on for authentication. That was really important. Conditional content rules for how they publish their content. Just making changes is really easy. I think somebody mentioned that earlier, that, being able to just change something right away, keeping docs really up to date, doing that in a matter of minutes, it's really important to the team as well. That's the Amplify story. Like I said, we're also still working very closely with Amplify. I'm very interested to hear sort of when this employee intranet goes live, the one that they're working on at the moment. Another thing worth mentioning is they also submitted their story. So we worked on, with them on this story this year, and they submitted it to Atlassian, and they ended up winning this year's Work Differently Together award, which sort of specifically recognized them for their, the changes they made to their go-to-market release strategy, and also for this documentation center. It was quote unquote a role model for creative marketplace app use and efficiency. They actually have an award-winning setup, you could say. Theirs is just one of the many great help centers we see out there in the wild, though. And I don't know, Max talks to customers more than I do, though. So he has picked out ones that he wants to sort of highlight.
Yes. So just to give you maybe an impression of other help centers, a quick showcase. Like this is another customer, it's Rowdy. It's been available for a while online. They are also publishing versions to their site. The most most well-known example is probably the Atlassian documentation itself, because it's also running report. They're using it for their docs, and they were also actually one of the first users for Viewport to use and their documentation and publish it. And probably it's also one of the oldest Confluence Server installations that is still around and alive. So, but yeah, Easy Agile, you already know Easy Agile probably from the former events. They have a beautiful help center set up with Viewport as an Australian-based marketplace partner. Same goes for Adaptavist with Script Runner, even though they are still on premise. So probably we move them to the cloud at some point soon. And there's even more examples available on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We had a webinar going deeper also into Amplify and other customers, showcasing a lot. So if you're interested in that, we share some links later on. But I guess the most interesting thing about Viewport is also that we have a very exciting feature coming soon, because we will be introducing an AI-powered search in Scroll Viewport. We are already enhancing this whole search experience with bundling Elasticsearch into Scroll Viewport. So coming from Confluence to a Viewport site is already a better experience for your users, because the search is providing better results, adding more value. So with this AI-powered search in Scroll Viewport, we want to enable users to surface answers and information way quicker, and also like in a regular conversational language. So asking natural questions and getting a response back, and interact with this AI that searches in the context of your help center and is aimed to deliver the information that is available there more quickly, make it more available, and is also then to responses, adding articles and more information that round up this help experience, and in a way enables your user to find whatever they need way faster. We already have this available in our help center in an experimental state, so you can try it looking at our product documentation. And we are also aiming to go into like general availability at the end of this quarter, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Shannon has more up-to-date information. But yeah, we have a landing page that you can also sign up for this if you're interested in it. And this is basically something like the next next big thing what we have in mind for and enhancing and improving the user experience, especially in Viewport with this AI assisted search. So especially around Viewport so far, it's like now it's time to breathe. You can get out any question that you haven't answered asked yet in the chat. So is there anything that at this point that needs some answers from our side? Then please shoot at us.
Yeah, we had an additional question about authentication. I've just dropped a link to our help article that kind of outlines what capabilities we have as well. I hope that's helpful.
But I think that's the thing, right, that Belinda was asking there was, yes, is that possible? But it's essentially that content, rather than needing a Confluence license, you can access via Viewport, single sign-on in. So as long as there is that capability, how does that sort? Well, I can have a look at that later. I'm interested from the connecting up from an SSO perspective and what have you. But I'll read the article.
So yeah, we have a localization question. So if you think about, so like if you're authoring your documentation in multiple languages, your Viewport site will still have like one like main language. So there's no awareness in terms of like automatically switching languages when it comes to region. So you can have a multi-language help center, and users are able to actually switch from anywhere to different languages. But there is a main language that then will be displayed to users.
I'm just dropping an example actually of a customer. I just have them top of mind anyway. Ductella, exactly. Yeah,
so always my go-to customer for
same. So that's a great example of a help center. They're actually publishing the content both in English and in Czech. And I mean, the context of the help center, if you're a user, you land on either the one language or the other, and the entire help center is in that language. But if you scroll to the bottom, you can actually switch. We have that language switcher, and they are using, I believe, Scroll Documents, which is sort of the hub of how you do all the management and structure of your content in Confluence. And then depending on your needs, you can also extend that with either the translations extension or our variants extension, which Christopher, I believe this might be relevant to your question about segregated content. This concept of like multiple audiences, that's also, something that we can help just make easier for folks in Confluence. So if your product has multiple variants, right? So you've got sort of an end user that you want to build the docs for, but then you've got an administrator that you want to build the docs for. It might be really important that you have variants for that. And again, we do enable conditional content management. It is essentially what it is. And then you can also publish those variants depending on what's needed. I can also find an example really quick of somebody who's doing that.
Benjamin, you were mentioning something about validating, in a way, I guess, search results or the quality of an AI assistant. Or what is your thought behind the question? What would you like to do?
Geez, I can hear that keyboard, Shannon.
No.
That's okay. No, don't.
The one that I just shared, they have 3 different product variants in their help center. If you go to the top right-hand side, you can actually sort of switch between them. You can see the content is slightly different.
Okay. No, I was in a meeting once and I was just typing away. My keyboard was like an ancient typewriter. It was very loud. And it would,
I apologize. I will mute myself.
I would be that guy who was. Yes. Anyway.
Yes.
Right.
Benjamin, about the AI search feature, we totally understand. We're actually going through an early access program right now, and that is definitely the biggest answer that we get back is very interesting, but we would have to validate how this is working in our help center. And as Max said, we are trying to roll this out generally at the end of this quarter, so the end of September, beginning of October. And yeah, you'd be able to try it out if you're a Viewport user. So good. Shall we continue? We have one more customer story that I would love to showcase. And that is from a fellow German company, actually. So eDoc, they are a German-based software company as well, so it's also in the software space. And they specialize in helping other companies sort of digitalize their business processes, especially around their document management. So everything from procurement and invoicing, contracts, archiving, all of that stuff. And they have a lot of information and documentation to create and share. So everything from process descriptions and handbooks to product documentation, service agreements, they do it all. Obviously they're in a space where they want to encourage more modern document management and sort of this digital transformation for other companies. And they absolutely needed to revisit the way that they were managing documentation before. So if you can believe it, up until 2021, they were managing all of their documentation largely in Word documents. So obviously not ideal, not very modern, and this posed a number of problems. The first one being sort of not having this centralized knowledge. So no single source of truth. That makes it really difficult for everybody to know what's going on. Obviously Word-based processes are just, by nature disjointed. So everyone's working on content at one stage at a time, and it's really difficult to track sort of content states, maintain up-to-date versions of things. And their customers kind of suffered as a result of that. So they had no single place they could go and sort of seek help. It wasn't clear exactly where they could look for up-to-date information. So that's where Confluence and these scroll apps came in. Little deja vu here, they are using Viewport and Documents like the Amplify team was. For their help center and then for structuring the content. But this is where actually some of our exporter apps will come in to the conversation as well, because they are using Scroll PDF Exporter. So we can have a quick look at their setup. So this is the eDoc Help Center. It's super colorful. It's very branded. It is only in German, so they do write and produce their public content only to a German audience. But you don't need to know German to sort of understand their setup. They base their documentation based on sort of like either the product or the service that they're offering. And if that's sort of what you see in all of these different tiles here, and if you click into one of those, this is the documentation for one of their products. And what makes their setup really special is they are actually making use or sort of active use of versioning. So they're actually publishing the versions that they create. And as an end user, you'll be able to see it in this sort of top right-hand corner. This version picker will appear. So as a user, I need the documentation that's relevant to the version of the product that I'm using. Maybe I also need to reference past versions for whatever reason. We do see that need in the market. Actually, medical devices is an area where, keeping those documents retained and, seeing those versions over time, that's an excellent example of, whether you're publishing those documentations or not, you do need to be creating them. And the way that eDoc is accomplishing this is with Scroll Documents. So they manage all of their documentation, for example, this product as one instance. And when they do a new release, they're able to just version or essentially snapshot the documentation at that point in time. And thanks to an integration between Viewport and Documents, you can actually choose which versions you want to publish. Sometimes it's a few, sometimes it's all of them. It's really up to the content manager. Max actually knows Heike more personally, so I'll let him explain it.
We have another quote from some, let's say, documentation and enthusiast and heavy user, also a very active member, like in the German community. So their team, like Heike's team, they really believe in the value of centralizing and sharing knowledge. So it's not only for their users, but also for the company. And they're saying, so like having a documentation center is just the basics when it comes to sharing knowledge. So that is like that's your starting point. And that brings us back to the characteristics we had earlier in this session. So you got to give that information a home. So for your users, for your customers. And just so you have some background, the team did come from a Word and document-based background. And so offline formats continue to be very important for them to share information. So that's not gone. And yeah, as said, they're using Scroll PDF Exporter to deliver their docs as nice custom style PDFs. And yeah, every article gets also published in their help center, gets published to PDFs as well. And maybe just to give you a few examples, what they do. So for example, they're exporting their handbooks. And you directly notice some of the customizations that are easily achievable, like putting a logo and a nice cover page, some metadata, like a version that was exported, or the date. So these are all, like, for example, custom placeholders that are available in Scroll PDF templates. Also, the document itself is nicely formatted. It has notes and info macros coming from Confluence, heading levels and styles, numbered lists, headers, footers. So you see there's a lot of structure, a lot of things to work with to structure not only the content, but also make it appealing for someone consuming this handbook. And another example is the eDoc service agreement. So again, there is a lot of customizations with logo, heading levels, and data that, like the document version or approval date that comes from Confluence, and still adding movies and tests. But in what context? So, like, for example, using rich, let's put it like that, rich media into a documentation, like on a Confluence page that is then published in a help center like Viewport, works. So that's something that is totally supported. About like test questions, I honestly doubt it, without even knowing too much about like what app you are using, because we are, for example, with Viewport, we're leaving the context of Confluence, so we are disattached in a way. And I mean, in a file-based, I'm not sure if that is something that could even work in file-based formats, on what way. That's something, I guess, I need just a bit more information. But yeah, so as you can see, Heike did a lot of this templates for the documentation, for different types of exports, different languages, with footnotes, all in the template manager, which is, fortunately to say, it's so easy to use. So like, we go through a few of the screenshots to just show you the amount of flexibility that you have with in deciding how your content is actually then presented or displayed. So it's all super easy to configure, clicks based on really like structure of your content, like heading levels. It's also going down then to how macros are displayed. You don't need to know any CSS or HTML. You click through different settings via the UI, and then you can have as many templates as you like to cover all your use cases. So like, eDoc has special templates for handbooks. You have other templates for your contracts or agreements. And then you can also decide in Confluence who has access to this kind of templates. Is it available globally or only available in certain spaces? So you can also influence here, like what is available at what point for what users in Confluence. And if you like are looking into Word exports, the templating there is actually happening in Word templates. So anyone who is capable of working with Word, with or without Clippy, is able to easily set up a Word template for the Scroll exporter as well. So that's easy to use. The experience is also the same across the products. And of course, we build the apps, because we're talking about the Scroll suite, in a way that they play nicely together. So for those teams that are using Scroll documents to manage versions or translations and variants, like we saw in the eDoc example, it's very easy to also publish this very specific content into one of the available formats. So like only a specific translation or a specific variant. And that's not all, because we have an online resource where you can get some inspiration from other users for your use cases and download also templates directly from the site. So you can then upload these templates and make it available or adjust it for your team. And we have lots of use cases already online. And you can find templates for contracts in our template library that we have online. So it's like a good starting point for creating your own contracts, going from there. As you can see, the whole template already brings you some of the presets and nice things that can be filled out and used within Confluence. Technical documentation template is something that you can download there and access and get some inspiration, or for creating quotes. So we're going down really like in multiple ways. You can also create quotes. It could be that you want to look in the template for creating project documentation, like you name it. And yeah, you can do it all on your own, or template library, download the template, have an easier start, and go from there to then end up with nicely formatted, customized, also branded, let's be honest, like documents that match your branding and how you want to present these type of things. So yeah, the good thing is also it's not just like a one-way street that you download all your templates there. If you have, for example, a nice use case or think you have an awesome template and you would be interested in being features, we are very, very happy to feature more customers in this template library with their templates from their everyday use cases. And eDoc, for example, was one of the very first to be features with the two templates that we showed earlier, the handbook and the service description. So they are also available for viewing them, downloading them. And as I said, so if you think you have a great template, we're very, very happy to feature you on the site. Simply get in touch with us. So I guess the more the merrier. And this already, let me give it back to you, Shannon.
Yeah, sounds good. I was also thinking about you, Jeff, that hopefully this template library, maybe that's like a resource. If you haven't sort of crossed into the PDF template exporter yet, then this maybe is a help. You don't have to start with a brand new template.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier on that so my company Together, heavy users of the K15T scroll word exporter. We also like the variants, documents, etc. We've implemented that for clients, and we're just exploring the viewport with our first marketplace app, which we're going to launch soon. But yeah, the PDF exporter, there is a bit of inefficiencies for us because we're going for our proposals. We export to Word, and then we use Adobe PDF to create the PDF. Whereas it would be more efficient if we could go straight to PDF. But yeah, that's one of the efficiencies. So I'll get the team to have a look.
Perfect. Cool. And yeah, and I know we're actually kind of creeping up on the hour right now. So yeah, we talked, obviously about these two different customer examples. We saw a few of the different apps, but I want to kind of circle back to the beginning where you don't have to know every app in the Scroll app portfolio. We understand it's a very large, group of apps. But yeah, actually, believe it or not, this is actually not all of them. We do have a few more for like specialized use cases. And yeah, main thing that we do is we help with the content management side of things, and then also, of course, the publishing side. And of course, you do not, as you saw in those customer stories, you do not need all of these apps to be able to create, the ultimate documentation hub. And that's sort of why we offer these in sort of a modular fashion. We have that flexibility to sort of just use whatever it is that your team actually needs, expand on it if you need to. And yeah, I just want to say, if you were inspired by anything that you saw in this presentation, if you're trying to create something similar, we'd definitely love to hear from you. You can actually learn more about the apps on our website. So just head to k15t.com/scroll. And then from there, you can also book some time with our team. Maybe you'll end up also with Max directly. And yeah, we would be really happy to talk through whatever use case you have, and also just recommend either the app or, the combination of apps that's really going to help you get started. And yeah, at the end of the day, create sort of the best user help experience you can based on Confluence. And that's, I guess, officially the end of our portion. I want to also open it up, though, again, if anybody has additional questions or things they would love to discuss. We have a little bit of time. We have a couple minutes.
So while people are thinking about that, I guess one of the things that we also use it for, so we're very big on write it once, use it in multiple places. So whether that's going to be in proposal, if it's going to be in for the help center or whatever it might be from a Jira Service Management perspective. But one of the other things is actually reusing that content in, traditionally, we don't like creating PowerPoint slides. I know they make sense. I know why people do it, but we would prefer to be able to export it into a format which is landscape to present. So our team reached out to the K15 support desk for some advice in some troubles with that, getting it right in Microsoft Word first and then going off to PDF. But we've been quite happy with that approach, that we can quickly come up with slide deck from Confluence pages, noting that they're not actually PowerPoint, they're a PDF at the end of the day, but people can easy for us to share, etc. So what we have done is done a presentation, used Confluence even for doing the presentation using presenter mode, and then export to a PDF and share that with people in front of people, just to show them how they can reuse that content themselves. So lots of opportunity for that reuse.
If I'm not mistaken, we actually also have a presentation template in the template library.
Okay, now you've piqued even my interest even more.
Good.
So cool. All right. So, doesn't look like there's anyone typing away.
Well, then I have one more thing I want to share with everybody before everybody sort of signs off. At K15T, I want to say that we definitely are more than just apps. Our team, we're really passionate, like I said, about helping teams share information really well, really intentionally, and also just help people get the most out of Confluence. So we've taken everything that we've learned in the last 15 years of our existence, and we've wrapped it up into a variety of very free resources just for your team. So if you head to our YouTube channel, we produce a lot of best practice videos, live streams. We actually have a live stream this afternoon, I believe, on automations, our afternoon, German afternoon, and then also YouTube shorts, so you can sort of learn new skills really quick. We also are the team behind the Confluence Collaboration Hub, so we have more in-depth articles, guides, tutorials, just to learn how to use Confluence. And then every week we send out a weekly dose of Confluence newsletter, just to sort of, if you're really, really keen on keeping up on Confluence, you will be up to date on all the latest features, tricks, new content, with the intention of just turning you into a Confluence pro. That is all we have for you today.
There was one question from Benjamin. It's like, any experience with baselining with our tools? So
baselining content, is that?
That's I wanted to ask for like a bit, maybe more context, or how do you, because it's
so baselining, I would be thinking about your versions. Product.
So that would be something, it's definitely a term that comes up a lot in the context of versions. And I think, it's really important to know that the way that Scroll Documents works on like a functional level is it's actually more kind of like baselining. So, no, I'm getting this mixed up. That was our old versions product. What we're essentially doing is more snapshotting. So you're creating a version of that document at a certain point in time. And you always have this sort of ever-living document is what we're calling it. It could be a page, it could be a subset of pages, it could be a whole space. But as you're doing the versions, you're not always working from sort of one and then creating it over time. You have your document, and then as, for example, you have a new release or you need to save the version for whatever reason, you just create that version with the product.
Yeah. It's always important to for us to stress this mental model, especially with people coming from different tools in technical writing or being seasoned in that area. So to have like, yeah, there's a living piece of content, there's collaboration happening, there's changes happening. And yeah, the moment you want to say like, okay, so this is the time we create a snapshot or create our baseline, we save the copy, we do some processing with whatever content is available, also happening on the page in macros. So that is then basically your static snapshot that you go multiple places to in publishing and distributing the knowledge. But the source will always be like this living piece of documentation. From there, you just create the snapshots.
So I want to so we'll put this video up on the YouTube channel for the Australia New Zealand ACE community. So rather than each channel having their own YouTube, we put it on as a community, again organised by Kit and Ash from Brisbane, which is great. So one of the things that might be useful, Shannon and Max, is if you send through a couple of little links. So we might do little video, email out afterwards with some of the links, etc., so that then people can know how to contact, and especially those that want to do it. I might get you to email those if you can.
I definitely will. Yeah, I can send over everything. This was just a quick one I had on hand.
Yeah, no, perfect. But now I've got to actually jump onto a call with the UK, so I'm going to have to leave. Yes, that beer is going to take a little bit longer before I get it. So have a great day. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And if no one's tried the products, we've had someone recently join our team, and they've gone, why didn't I know about this? And they were working for a fairly significant company that hadn't, and now they're using it every day and they love it. Yeah, take a look at these products. Okay. Thanks, guys. Good to see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.